This is a film study to focus on Sam Darnold's team record 17 straight completions in the Seahawks' 38-14 win over the Commanders on Sunday Night Football. Darnold, of course, finished 21 of 24 passing. He did have the one interception in the second half, but we're going to focus on and try to highlight his 16 for 16 performance with 4 touchdowns in the first half as Seattle jumped out to a commanding 28-0 lead. I'm going to give you some summary thoughts at the end. We're going to get right to the film here in the beginning. Seattle's opening possession after the defense was able to get a stop. This is a 2nd and 17 after, I believe, a penalty. JSN motions into the backfield. No corresponding reaction from Washington, meaning no defensive back moving across the formation with him to indicate man. And in this case, Darnold knows that whatever coverage Washington called, they're locked into. Putting your best wide receiver, A, into the boundary, but B, in the backfield to do so, obviously is a clear indication that you're going to pass. Frankie Lavu, the hybrid inside linebacker, outside linebacker for Washington, is going to push out into the flats. I believe Washington is basically playing here a version of a cover 3. Darnold quickly looking down there to the boundary. Lavu had turned his back to push out into the flat, so it's an easy completion to JSN, who is one of the best in the league, one of the best that I've ever seen as far as catching the ball and turning and knowing where to go as or just before even he's making the catch. Hopefully I said that in a way that makes sense. Quick completion in between the two zone defenders gives Seattle a manageable 3rd down after a 14-yard gain. This is the ensuing play of the next snap. It's a 3rd and 3 with the ball on the left hash. Barner, the only tight end on the field, is going to motion from the bottom to the top. He essentially is going to chip the edge defender briefly and then release underneath of or behind this in-breaking route by Horton. Now, they're playing man here, they being Washington. I do actually think it's a pretty good job here down on the bottom side of the screen. I think it might be Lattimore before he got hurt against JSN. But in any case, Horton's route is clearing out that space in the middle of the field such that once Barner chips the edge defender, number 24, then he can flow into the middle of the field, in between the hashes, behind this route, onto the open space. He beats Frankie Lavu across his face for a quick completion. Lavu actually does force a fumble here that fortunately Seattle's able to recover. Give you the end zone angle of the same play. We'll try to focus on Darnold and talk about the things he's reading. I think initially he looks to his left, our right-hand side of the screen, which makes sense. That's where JSN and Cody White are located. Barner's going to chip. It's a 4-man rush, organic 4-man rush by Washington, illustrated by the 4 purple arrows. Barner's going to chip 24. He'll disappear off our screen for a moment. And Lavu just gets a little bit too much width here, if you ask me. Perhaps overcompensates. You'll see him, Lavu, disappear off screen for us. And by the time that happens, Darnold has quickly moved off of his initial read, which, like I said, is to his left, our right-hand side of the screen. Comes back to Barner, open underneath. Fortunately, he's able to recover the fumble quickly. Same possession there first, and this is a 2nd and goal. Really nice play, booting out to his left. You got the jet action by Cody White from an 11 personnel grouping, and then run fake to Kenneth Walker III, who's making it look like a zone concept to the weak side, the top side of our screen. What I like about this route from Horton is that he wins with, there's some physicality, there's some contact here, and he fights through it. Of course, there's a penalty called as well. Darnold is really exceptional, I think, at throwing to his left, but also understanding the edge defender or whoever's oncoming to try to contain him and or get the sack, and their leverage and how that affects or impacts or alters what type of throw he's got to deliver. Basically, he didn't try to continue pushing to the sideline. He knew his time was right now in terms of when he had to throw the football. And so he's looking for Horton since Barner is covered. It's a great throw. It's on time. It's obviously got great accuracy. It's in the right location, but it's got the right pace. All of those things are related. This one puts Seattle up 7-0. Give you the end zone angle of the same play. We'll also focus on the job that Barner does here, just kind of chipping the defensive end. I would call this jet follow. So Cody White is the jet motion, and then the run action is going in the same direction, as opposed to jet dive, where those two things flow in opposite directions from each other. First of all, Darnold is great at presenting the football, kind of Jared Goff-esque, if you ask me, or Matt Stafford. Second of all, Barner is chipping or dealing with the defensive end for a moment, and then he'll release out into the flats the same direction that Darnold is going to flow to. And what that does is it just gives 96 something to deal with for a moment and creates a little bit more time for Darnold to move out to his left, set his feet, and then throw this football perfectly out in front of Horton, such that after he dealt with the contact that, of course, like I said, drew a penalty, he's able to gather in his first touchdown of the night. As an aside, I'm a huge fan of anything that creates that classic horizontal conflict like we saw in the previous play. The jet action from our end zone angle, right to left, and then Walker also to our left from the end zone angle with the boot action back to our right. Very reminiscent of a lot of things that I talked about in the initial Klint Kubiak video that I did once he was signed to be the offensive coordinator. In any case, we're on to the second possession. This is after Okada's amazing interception. I'd like to get some time to perhaps cover his play a little bit later tonight or on into Tuesday. But a shift by Seattle. So they initially line up in empty. The first time I saw this, I thought it was 0-2 personnel, which Seattle did actually use, I think, twice last night. But in any case, it's Horton once again. And I think that Darnold's got an idea of what coverage is coming here. I don't have no way to determine how he knows it. But essentially, you've got 3 receivers down here, 4 defensive backs for Washington. And what they basically end up doing here is doubling JSN. And so Darnold identifies it quite quickly and attacks with Horton down the field. The one thing I really like about Kubiak's offense so far is when they're throwing the football, they're throwing to score. It's not that everything is a deep route, but generally they're looking to make big plays. Horton took advantage of his opportunity. Obviously, a huge win against Mike St. Riestel. I mean, look at the amount of separation that we've got here to put them up 14-0. Pull this back a little bit, and just so you can try to illustrate to you the corner who's dealing with JSN initially, and then the safety who's obviously visually focused on that matchup. Essentially, we could say double teaming him, trying to make it or limit JSN's opportunity to make a play here on a third down. Quick release by Darnold, accurate. I don't know about you. There's times where you watch a throw on a broadcast and you think, okay, that might be overthrown. The moment that this one was out, I thought, okay, that ball might be slightly overthrown, but Horton runs on top of it perfectly. He's got 13 catches in his rookie season, 5 of which are touchdowns. Clearly developing quickly in this offense as a big play threat. Same play from the end zone angle. Like I said, this is a 3rd and 8 with the ball on the left hash. And Washington's got an interesting pre-snap alignment here. I almost wonder if this kind of, I don't want to say gave it away to Darnold, but there hasn't been too many games played, so how many opportunities did they have on film to see Washington actually double team someone? I'm just very interested in those types of things. What Darnold was able to see such that he knew it was probably a double team. Why I'm focusing on that is initially off the snap, Darnold actually focuses and looks to his left briefly. We're talking about here. Comes back to the right. You can see Horton already has St. Riestel beat. We have to talk about the pass protection. It was borderline perfect at times, such that when there was a little bit of pressure, it really stuck out. You could kind of tell when things weren't perfect. There's the separation for Horton. JSN is of course, off screen to our right, the 3 o'clock position. Immaculate throw, puts them up 14-0. Everything is perfect here on this play from a Darnold perspective. Rhythm, touch, the arc on the throw. I mean, maybe a slower receiver doesn't run onto it as perfectly. Darnold and Horton have a great connection already. I'd love to do a video on Horton's 2025 season at some point this week. I don't know if you guys like the later night film study videos, but they kind of fit my work schedule and the things that I do in my professional life, as well as, on Monday nights, not trying to compete with an actual NFL game in terms of the premiere. Of course, there was a forced fumble on the kickoff, the ensuing kickoff, and Seattle gets the ball right back. This, I think, is an illustration of Kubiak's mentality. Throwing to score. From a heavier personnel group. It's 12 personnel, so you've got 2 tight ends up here, and Arroyo is going to run up the seam. Generally would refer to the seam as, between the top of the numbers and the hash, but not necessarily, this area here. More so focused like the midpoint between the top of the numbers and the hash out. Hopefully I said that in a way that makes sense. In addition, I think it's Horton running essentially a clear out route up there to the top side. It's not play action. It's just straight drop back. And I think Darnold is extremely comfortable in those drop back situations. Arroyo pretty much has got the win already on 18. But again, it's the pace as well as the location and the touch that Darnold puts on it. He's immediately throwing the football out in front on a laser, a low angle. I'm not sure, why exactly that is. As an aside, the huge win that was talked about on the broadcast is absolutely correct. It looks even better on the All-22 film. We're talking about JSN down here to the bottom side. Fake sake he's going to come back to the inside. Really unfair to ask a DB, Trey Amos, a rookie, to have to line up and match that. I really like the Trey Amos film coming out of college. This is a complete win for JSN. He puts his hand up. Clearly, if Darnold goes there, we've got another touchdown. As it stands, this one puts Seattle up 21-0, just, I think, 11 seconds after they had just scored on the third down touchdown pass to Horton. Same play from the end zone angle here. You can see the alignment that Washington has taken, essentially giving away that they're playing man. So we're talking about this matchup right here, and then 18 on 18. I'm not sure who Washington's 18 is. This is the free safety who's set up to JSN side, basically to give some help to the corner over there, Trey Amos. No play action, just straight drop back. And once again, the pocket that is established for him. You can kind of draw this on 80 to 90% of the throws that he had from last night. It's just truly remarkable, the pass pro that's there. I don't know what the metrics say, the time to throw, all of those things. I know just it was on time from a Darnold perspective, borderline perfect in term from all angles, pace, touch, location, etc. And then putting them up 21-0, like I said, 11 seconds after they had just scored on Horton's second touchdown. Really the game was over at that point, in my opinion. Darnold, of course, added one more touchdown and then perhaps his best throw of the night in the last 30 seconds of the second quarter. We'll get to his fourth touchdown, the one to Cody White for 60 yards. But I wanted to focus on the snap before that. It's a 3rd and 5 on their fourth possession. Safety down here appears to be pointing at something. It's almost like he's pointing where JSN's route is going to end up. It's a little bit shorter in terms of the direction that he's pointing, but JSN is going to basically sit down, and that's exactly where Darnold is looking. There must be something here that tells him he's not able to fit the football in there. Essentially, we've got a Tampa 2. Two high safeties, Bobby Wagner running between the hashes. Tampa 2 is really a misnomer. It's really three guys responsible for deep coverage, the Mike linebacker responsible for the deep middle of the field. Darnold's poise and confidence and just calm really come through here on this play. There's a little bit of pressure. I've seen worse. I'm a Ravens fan. Our offensive line stinks. So he deals with it quickly, and that's the thing that I really like. I also want to just talk about, I mentioned this earlier, JSN, he's got so many skills. Awareness is definitely one of them. Watch him snap his helmet back to look and see where this safety is real quick. And I think he does those things to know where to turn once he catches the football. We don't see that on every single play, but in this case we do, and so I wanted to illustrate it for you. One of his skills that I think just adds yards after the catch, adds opportunities for bigger plays, is the ability to turn and go immediately after the catch. In this case, it's 22 yards on a 3rd and 5. Give you the same play from the end zone angle. Kenneth Walker III to the right, and then Barner to the left. Both of them have opportunities to chip the two edge defenders. Didn't really need to in many cases because the pass pro was on point for Seattle. Looking to the top side, up here where this box is or the square is where JSN is located. Again, I feel like there's possibly a lane. Maybe it's this defensive tackle that's in the way. I have no idea why the ball isn't thrown. Maybe Darnold just thinks it's a tighter window than I perceive it to be. Because he moves around and then comes back to that same hole in the zone between Frankie Lavu and the corner who would be off screen to our right, like the 2 o'clock position. JSN catches it, turns and goes immediately. Everything he's doing, JSN, he's dangerous throughout the entire play. At the snap, 1 to 2 seconds later, 5 to 7 seconds later, it's like everything he's doing, all of his attributes from a receiver standpoint should be at a 99. Very next snap, and I love this because they went hurry up. So again, you've got evidence that Kubiak recognizes situations in the game. We can throw to score. So it's a 1st and 10 after that conversion by JSN. And I think this is a great play. This is like what everyone in the NFL is doing now. This C-gap insert, it creates run-pass conflict. So the tight end stepping out to the edge defender, in this case 24, normally the wide receiver in 11 personnel would insert into that C-gap. So I'm talking about, between the tight end and the right tackle, in this case Lucas. That's not what happens here. 24 kind of slams down. Barner takes him down, basically takes him where 24's momentum is proceeding, and 84 just goes right up the seam. A part of me wonders if the safety's not involved here because he violently comes up. Amos tries to recognize it and retreat. It's over. I thought Darnold got rid of this faster than he actually does. In the reaction video that I talked about earlier today, I wanted to record it last night right after the game, but just too late for me being on the East Coast. I thought he threw it earlier, but he threw it soon enough such that White was able to maybe not make a move on the safety, but break the tackle. That's important. A lot of these quarterbacks that have not just high completion percentage, but also the ability to get yards after the catch for their teammates, it's because they're getting the ball out soon to them and giving them the best opportunity to make a move, break a tackle, and secure the football. At this point, it's 28-0. Seattle has 28 points on 4 possessions, and Washington has 41 yards. The broadcast crew was trying their best to keep us interested and talk about things. It wasn't working. I mean, it worked for me, and I'm sure it worked for you as a Seahawks fan. The game was really over. I do want to talk about this play late in the second quarter. This will be the last one that I focus on for this video. Again, my full-length Sam Darnold film study video I'll put out later this week. I don't feel like I can encapsulate everything that I think I'm seeing. This is essentially just focusing on the first half and how they were able to shred Washington's defense. This is a borderline evil concept, putting JSN into the boundary while you have 2 receivers to the top side. So at some point, perhaps they'll encounter a team with a high enough quality cover corner who could deal with this. But if Derek Stingley can't, I don't know who can. And what I mean is putting him in the backfield and giving him this kind of choice route. So first of all, Barner is the tight end. He's going to clear this all out. So he's basically removing this defender from the boundary side of the field. Washington's not doing much of anything, like dropping people out to assist. JSN, same release that we saw earlier when he was lined up in the backfield on the first possession. By the time he gets to the line of scrimmage or near it, he's got a choice. It's more than just these 2, but let's simplify it. He could break off the slant or turn it into a wheel, probably an out. Now, there is something to note here that Sam Darnold pump fakes for a moment. Talking about up here. So he must have been thinking or expecting some other type of adjustment by JSN. He sees where JSN is going to beat him outside. This is possibly his best throw because of this situation. I mean, yeah, you're already up 28-7, so it's not like there's anything to, quote, lose. But final minute of the half, I still don't understand the 10-second runoff, but just a fantastic throw and catch. JSN, as good as it gets in the NFL right now. For my money, he's the best receiver that I get to watch film of. Let's put it that way. I haven't seen Jamar Chase yet. So, maybe a little different type of player there. To evaluate Darnold in the offense, 330 yards of total offense in the first half, 48 of which was rushing. Darnold, 16 of 16. Right now, in 2025, he's got 16 TDs, 5 touchdowns, 70% completion percentage. But he's already exceeded 2,000 yards passing in 8 games. Now, that's not first. That's not even close. I think Daniel Jones has 2,400. So Darnold is 6th in the league in passing yardage, 2,084 to be precise. But I want to get into those numbers just for a moment and just illustrate something. The mentality that Kubiak has throwing to score or throwing to attack, and Darnold's fitting in perfectly. Darnold's averaging 9.6 yards per attempt. 9.6 yards per throw. That's number 1 in the league. Also, 13.7 yards per catch. That's also leading the NFL. And that one I want to talk about for a moment. It's far and away better. Well, the number 2 guy in the league for so far right now is Lamar Jackson at 12.5 yards per catch. That's almost 10% less yards per completion than Sam Darnold. Seattle's throwing to score. They're throwing to attack, and I love it. I also think it'd be important to mention this when you talk about his passing yards so far through 8 games. He's got 216 pass attempts. Other guys in front of him have 293, 259, 316, that's 100 more pass attempts than him, and 325. If you average out the 5 players in front of him, their total pass attempts, the average attempts of the guys 1 through 5 is 292. Sam Darnold's at 216. And on top of all this, he's getting a ton of guys involved. As I said, this is not my official Sam Darnold film study. I will be direct with you. I did not anticipate doing videos like this so consistently every week. Coming into 2025, I hoped so. I hoped that I could do a Lamar Jackson, a Jared Goff, and a Sam Darnold film study every week. And I'm excited to be able to do that and bring it to you. If you enjoy it, please let me know in the comment section. It was a spectacular performance to watch live. I feel like Seattle let off the gas a little bit in the second half, but that makes sense, right? They're up 31-7, and the run game, while not dominant, it's serving its purpose. It's setting up the play action, but it's a misnomer, a mischaracterization to say that Sam Darnold is succeeding because of play action so much. Yeah, as you see, there's plenty of throws from the shotgun. There's plenty of critical stuff on third down. It's a fun player. It's a fun offense to try to highlight. Hopefully I can do it justice. Obviously, he had one more completion to go, 17 for 17. That one occurred in the third quarter. You did have an incomplete, and then you also had an interception at some point. But he was sharp, playing at high degree efficiency and explosive plays at the same time while spreading the ball out to so many different players. I think it's as unique a start to the season as there is in the NFL right now at the quarterback position. In any case, you guys let me know what you think of the video in the comment section. If you enjoyed the plays that I presented here, I did so. I chose these plays specifically to try to illustrate the points that I knew I wanted to make. I watched the game live and was, really, really just blown away by how sharp he was and how easy it was for Sam Darnold to get every concept accomplished against this Washington defense. Appreciate you guys' time, man. If you think other Seahawks fans would enjoy this film study look at Sam Darnold and how the offense really blitzed the Washington Commanders in the first half, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.